This audiobook is your codex to mastering life's hidden forces, the frequency of love. You'll discover that when you vibrate in harmony, reality itself bends in your favor. The wisdom is ancient, but your time to claim it is now. Everything is energy. Introduction. In an age veiled in mist, when stone itself hummed with memory and every breath carried the song of creation, a truth was known, not written in ink, but woven in vibration. The frequency of love is no ordinary book. It is a sacred codex, a transmission from the heart of existence itself, a timeless whisper that reminds you reality yields not to effort, but to resonance. Within these pages, parables unfold like ancient petals, revealing that the simplest acts, kneading bread, tending soil, touching stone, hold the keys to life's invisible harmony. The world does not respond to what you do, but to the frequency you become. Fear clouds, gratitude clears, force fractures, presence heals. This is not a path of striving, but a call to remembrance, to harmonize with the shape life longs to take through you. When your inner melody aligns with the secret song of all that is, even stone will sing, and the unseen will step forth into light. The frequency is waiting, the resonance is yours to choose. Begin now, and let all of life listen. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Part 1. The Frequency of Daily Life. Chapter 1. The Merchant's Mistake. In the ancient marketplace of Ur, where spices perfumed the air and wisdom whispered through crowded stalls, Christopher Rodriguez carefully arranged his collection of sacred instruments. His prized possession, a pure silver tuning fork passed down through 7 generations of sound healers, held the center spot on his velvet display cloth. Christopher had always approached his trade with careful precision, measuring success by each meticulous transaction. But on this particular morning, his thoughts swirled with worry about declining sales in the western provinces. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the sacred fork's position for the 10th time. In that moment of anxious preoccupation, his elbow caught the edge of the display, sending the precious tuning fork clattering to the stone ground. The pure silver tines, which had rung with perfect pitch for centuries, now lay bent and silent in the dust. "The fork is not what's broken here," came a gentle voice. Amanda Sullivan, keeper of the temple's sacred sounds, stood watching with knowing eyes. She lifted the bent instrument, holding it before Christopher's anguished face. "But 7 generations," he protested, "my family's legacy, ruined by my carelessness." Amanda smiled. "Watch closely," she instructed. Closing her eyes, she held the fork with profound gratitude, acknowledging its centuries of service. Under her appreciative touch, the silver began to shimmer with an inner light. Slowly, impossibly, the tines straightened themselves, restored by the pure frequency of her thankfulness. "You see," she explained, "it was not carelessness that bent this fork, but the vibration of fear you've been carrying. Anxiety about the future created discord in your present moment, manifesting as physical misfortune." As if to demonstrate her point, 3 customers appeared at Christopher's stall, drawn by the fork's renewed resonance. Each made substantial purchases, commenting on the peaceful energy they felt around his display. "The universe," Amanda continued, "responds not to our actions, but to our frequencies. Vibrate with gratitude, and reality aligns with abundance. Vibrate with fear, and even precious things shatter. From that day forward, Christopher approached his trade differently. Before touching any sacred instrument, he would pause to align his inner frequency with appreciation rather than anxiety. His business flourished not through careful control, but through conscious vibration. Practice the gratitude attunement before handling precious objects or engaging in important tasks. Pause to attune your frequency. 1. Place your hands palm up in your lap. 2. Recall 3 specific things you're grateful for in this moment. 3. Feel appreciation filling your hands with warm light. 4. Only then reach for your task, maintaining that frequency of thankfulness. Notice how reality responds differently to your aligned touch. For like the silver fork, all matter responds to the frequency you embody. Choose your vibration wisely and watch the world transform to match your inner harmony. Chapter 2. The Potter's Rhythm. In the shadow of Mount Ararat, where sacred clay beds yielded pottery that sang with Earth's ancient voice, Master Potter Melissa Anderson shaped vessels that seemed to emerge from dreams themselves. Her humble workshop drew seekers from distant lands, though few understood the true secret of her artistry. Brian Martinez arrived on a warm autumn morning, his calloused hands revealing years of frustrated attempts to master the wheel. He watched in wonder as Melissa centered a mound of clay with barely a touch, the material flowing like liquid moonlight beneath her peaceful hands. "Show me your technique," she invited, stepping aside. Brian sat at the wheel, attacking the clay with precise movements he'd practiced thousands of times. Despite his technical skill, the vessel wobbled and collapsed. "Interesting," Melissa mused. "You know the movements perfectly, yet the clay refuses to dance with you. Shall I show you why?" She placed a bowl of water between them. "Speak to it first with anger." Brian furrowed his brow and sharply addressed the water. The surface erupted in chaotic ripples. "Now whisper with love," she instructed. When he did, the water's surface formed perfect concentric circles. "You see, even water responds not to our words, but to the frequency we carry. Clay is no different. It is earth and water combined, alive with the memory of creation itself. Force it, and it rebels. Love it, and it reveals its true nature." Taking her place at the wheel once more, Melissa closed her eyes and grew still. The workshop itself seemed to hold its breath. When her hands touched the clay, Brian gasped. The material moved like a living thing, rising and flowing as if orchestrated by an invisible song. "The secret," she explained, "is not in the hands, but in the heart. Before touching the clay, I become the stillness from which all form emerges. The vessel then shapes itself through me rather than by me." Practice the Creator's centering before beginning any creative work. 1. Sit in absolute stillness for 3 breaths. 2. Feel yourself as the empty space from which all things arise. 3. Let your hands become hollow vessels for creation's flow. 4. Touch your materials only when you feel total peace. 5. Create from that silence, letting form emerge naturally. For as Brian learned in the weeks that followed, mastery comes not through dominating materials, but through becoming the peaceful presence through which creation longs to express itself. His pottery soon gained a quality that transcended mere skill, each piece carrying the resonance of the silence from which it was born. Chapter 3, The Shepherd's Song. In the emerald valleys where ancient winds carried wisdom through swaying grasses, young shepherd Timothy Garcia discovered a truth that would forever change his understanding of the living world. Each dawn, he would lead his flock to graze among the sacred hills, carrying only his wooden flute and the songs in his heart. One particularly challenging morning, when his thoughts dwelled on village disputes, Timothy noticed his sheep scattered unusually far, seemingly deaf to his familiar calling tune. As frustration mounted, his melody grew sharp and brittle, driving the flock even further apart. "Your songs carry more than notes, young shepherd," came a voice like autumn leaves. Elder Rachel Parker, known for her ability to communicate with birds and beasts, emerged from a grove of olive trees. "Play again, but this time, let your heart lead the melody." Timothy lifted his flute once more, this time allowing his breath to flow with simple gratitude for the morning sun. To his amazement, the sheep began moving closer, their ears turning toward his song like flowers following light. "Now play your worry," Rachel instructed. When he did, the flock immediately grew restless, some backing away, others stamping nervously. "And now, play your piece." As Timothy's melody transformed into tranquil tones, the sheep settled into perfect stillness, some laying down in complete trust. "You see," Rachel explained, watching a lamb nestle against Timothy's knee, "animals read not our actions but our frequencies. They know the difference between a song played from duty and one flowing from love. Your flock scatters from worry, songs because those frequencies speak of danger, while joy songs carry the vibration of safety." To demonstrate further, she pointed to two identical patches of grass. "Sing your morning anxiety to that patch on the left." After a week, the grass where Timothy had played his worry songs grew sparse and yellow, while the patch receiving his joy songs flourished with unusual vibrancy. "Every living thing," Rachel taught, "dances to the song of your inner state. Master your own frequency, and all of nature harmonizes with your presence." Practice the harmony attunement to align your frequency with life's natural symphony. 1. Find a quiet place in nature. 2. Breathe deeply, feeling your oneness with all living things. 3. Hum or sing a simple tone that expresses your heart's peace. Notice how nearby plants and creatures respond. 5. Practice shifting your inner song between different emotional states. 6. Observe how nature mirrors each frequency you embody. For as Timothy learned in that sacred valley, life itself is an endless song. The question is not whether we will sing, but what frequency our melody will carry into the waiting world. Chapter 4, The Healer's Touch. In the mist-shrouded valley of the ancient healing springs, where thermal waters whispered secrets of wholeness to those who could listen, village healer Jennifer Thompson practiced arts passed down from the mystery schools of old. Unlike the shouting medicine merchants in the square, she worked in reverent silence, letting her hands speak through pure warmth and light. Kevin Wright, a battle-hardened warrior seeking cure for a wound that wouldn't heal, arrived with characteristic skepticism. "I've seen all manner of healers," he declared. "Show me what makes your touch different." Jennifer placed two identical clay bowls of water before them. "Place your hand above one," she instructed. Kevin did so, his calloused palm hovering over the still surface. After several minutes, no change was detectable. "Now watch," she said softly. Closing her eyes, Jennifer centered herself in profound compassion, remembering every being she'd ever helped heal. As she held her hand above the second bowl, steam began rising from the surface, the water literally warming under her touch. "Impossible," Kevin muttered, reaching out to feel the heat radiating from her palm. "Not impossible," Jennifer corrected gently. "Simply a different frequency. When we vibrate with love, we literally emit healing warmth. When we operate from doubt or force, our energy remains cold." To demonstrate further, she guided Kevin to a bed of white flowers. "Touch these blooms while thinking of battle." The petals instantly curled inward, recoiling from his energy. "Now touch them while remembering someone you deeply care for." This time, the flowers leaned into his hand, petals expanding toward his touch. "You see," Jennifer explained, "all life responds to the frequency we carry. Your wound refuses to heal, not because of its severity, but because you approach it as an enemy to be conquered, rather than a part of yourself to be loved whole." In the days that followed, Kevin learned to shift his own healing frequency. His impossible wound began closing once he stopped fighting it and started sending it the same compassion Jennifer had demonstrated. Practice the healer's attunement before attempting any healing work on yourself or others. 1. Place your hands palm up in your lap. 2. Recall 3 times you've experienced deep healing. 3. Feel your heart expanding with infinite compassion. 4. Imagine this love frequency flowing down your arms. 5. Only touch when you feel warmth radiating from your palms. 6. Maintain that frequency of unconditional care throughout contact. For as Kevin discovered by the sacred springs, true healing flows not from technique but from the frequency of love itself. When we vibrate with genuine compassion, even the deepest wounds remember how to become whole. Chapter 5, The Farmer's Field. In the fertile valley of the 7 rivers, where ancient stone still hummed with earth's primordial song, farmer Michael Torres tended fields that held a peculiar mystery. For years, he noticed that certain sections of his land yielded dramatically different harvests despite identical soil, seeds, and care. The eastern field burst with abundance, its wheat stalks dancing with golden vigor. Yet the western field remained stubbornly sparse, its growth stunted despite his best efforts. The difference plagued him until the day wise woman Stephanie Collins visited his farm, her eyes twinkling with knowing amusement. "Walk with me," she instructed, leading him first through the eastern field. "Tell me of your morning routine here." "This is where I begin each day," Michael explained. "I watch the sunrise and give thanks for another chance to tend the earth. Sometimes I sing the old gratitude songs my grandmother taught me." "And the western field?" Michael's expression darkened. "That's where I end each day, usually worried about market prices and whether we'll have enough to trade. I often pace there, calculating debts." Stephanie plucked 2 identical seeds from her pouch. "Hold out your hands." In his left palm, she placed 1 seed. "Think of all your worries." Within moments, the seed began to shrivel. In his right palm, she placed the other. "Now, remember your morning gratitude." The seed sprouted instantly, a tiny green shoot reaching skyward. "The earth," she explained, "drinks our frequencies like water. Where you walk with appreciation, abundance flows. Where you pace with fear, even the richest soil grows barren. Your crops mirror not just your tending, but your vibration while tending. To prove her point, she had Michael plant identical rows of corn with different emotional states. By harvest, the gratitude-planted row stood twice as tall as its worry-planted twin. Practice the grateful cultivation walk. To infuse your endeavors with abundance energy. 1. Before any important work, walk your space in mindful circles. 2. With each step, name something that fills you with genuine thanks. 3. Feel appreciation flowing from your feet into the ground. 4. Imagine everything you touch being nourished by your gratitude. 5. End by standing still, sensing how the space has shifted. 6. Maintain this frequency throughout your task. For as Michael learned in the seasons that followed, the greatest fertilizer is not what we spread with our hands, but the frequency we carry in our hearts. His entire farm soon flourished, fed by the daily practice of walking its paths with conscious gratitude. Chapter 6: The Weaver's Pattern. In the mountain monastery where sacred threads were said to capture starlight, Master Weaver Ashley Hamilton worked at her ancient loom, creating tapestries that seemed to shimmer with their own inner light. Her most peculiar teaching method was to accept 2 apprentices each season, one to observe her in the morning, another in the evening. Daniel Rodriguez arrived for his evening apprenticeship, finding Ashley in an unusual state of frustration over a tangled pattern. "Watch," she commanded, her fingers moving with agitated precision. Yet the more she forced the threads, the more hopelessly they knotted. "Now watch again tomorrow," she instructed, sending him away confused. The next morning, Daniel found her humming peacefully, her hands dancing across the same pattern. The threads seemed to flow like water, weaving themselves into impossible geometries that caught light in ways that defied natural law. "How did you untangle yesterday's mess?" he asked in amazement. "I didn't," she smiled, gesturing to both tapestries hanging side by side. "I started fresh, using the same pattern, same threads, same technique. The only difference was my frequency while weaving." She handed him 2 identical spools of golden thread. "Close your eyes and think of something that frustrates you. Now try to thread this needle." Daniel's attempts grew increasingly clumsy as the thread seemed to actively resist the needle's eye. "Now think of your most peaceful memory." This time, the thread slipped through effortlessly, as if drawn by an invisible magnet. "You see," Ashley explained, her fingers never pausing their dance across the loom. "Threads are like frozen light. They remember the frequency of every touch. When we create from frustration, they tangle in protest. When we weave from peace, they reveal their true nature, patterns of pure radiance." To demonstrate further, she had Daniel weave the same simple pattern in different emotional states. His frustrated weaving created a dull, knotted mess. His peaceful attempts produced a cloth that seemed to glow from within. Practice the thread of consciousness before any creative work. 1. Hold your materials in quiet meditation. 2. Breathe until you feel your pulse synchronize with their essence. 3. Begin only when you sense they welcome your touch. 4. If frustration arises, set everything down and recenter. 5. Resume when you can feel the materials inviting you back. 6. Maintain that frequency of peaceful partnership throughout. For as Daniel learned at the Starlight Loom, our creations carry not just our skill, but our state of being. When we align with the consciousness in our materials, Even the simplest works can capture the light of the infinite. Chapter 7, The Musician's Discovery. On the resonant caves beneath the temple of eternal sound, where crystalline formations sang their own ethereal harmonies, traveling musician Joshua Allen discovered a truth that would forever change his understanding of music's deeper nature. For years, Joshua had wandered from village to village, earning praise for his technical mastery of the sacred lyre. Yet on this day, as he prepared to play for temple keeper Nicole Martinez, his fingers moved with their usual precision but produced only hollow, lifeless notes. "Stop!" Nicole commanded, her voice gentle but firm. "Now close your eyes and remember the first time music moved your soul to tears." As Joshua recalled that distant memory, his chest expanded with profound emotion. Without opening his eyes, he touched the strings again. The cave suddenly filled with sounds so beautiful that nearby crystals began resonating in harmony, creating an orchestra of light and sound. "How?" Joshua whispered, his eyes wide with wonder. Nicole lifted a simple brass bowl. "Strike this while thinking of something that brings you joy," she instructed. The bowl rang with crystal clarity, its tone sustained and pure. "Now strike it again while thinking of your greatest worry." Though struck with identical force, the bowl produced only a dull thud. "You see," she explained, "all matter is alive with consciousness. Your instrument doesn't simply respond to your touch, it responds to your frequency. When you play from technical skill alone, you speak only to the strings. When you play from aligned consciousness, you commune with the very soul of sound itself." To demonstrate further, Nicole had Joshua play the same simple melody in different states of being. While distracted, his music remained flat and technical. While centered in pure appreciation for sound's sacred nature, the same notes seemed to dance with living light. This is why ancient masters never practiced scales without first purifying their consciousness, she revealed. For the highest music flows not from practiced fingers, but from allowing yourself to become the instrument through which the universe sings its own song. Practice the conscious resonance method. Before creating any sound, 1. Place your hand on your instrument in complete silence. 2. Feel its unique consciousness greeting yours. 3. Recall 3 moments when music moved your soul. 4. Begin playing only when you sense the instrument inviting you. 5. If you notice the sound becoming mechanical, pause and reconnect. 6. Let each note arise from the marriage of your combined frequencies. For as Joshua learned in those singing caves, true mastery comes not from commanding our instruments, but from remembering that we too are instruments, meant to resonate with the grand symphony of existence itself. Chapter 8, The Baker's Secret. In the ancient village of Rising Sun, where stone ovens held memories of 10,000 loaves, baker Sarah Thompson faced a peculiar mystery. Despite using identical ingredients and techniques, her morning bread rose gloriously while her afternoon loaves remained stubbornly dense. The puzzle haunted her until wandering sage Matthew Garcia visited her bakery, drawn by the scent of fresh rosemary bread. As she shared her confusion, he smiled knowingly. "Bake 2 loaves now," he instructed, "but first tell me of your morning routine." "I begin before dawn," Sarah explained, giving thanks for each ingredient, the wheat that gave its life, the salt of the earth, the water from our blessed well. I sing the old gratitude prayers while kneading. "And your afternoon baking?" Sarah sighed. "By then I'm usually calculating accounts, worrying whether I've made enough to trade, rushing to finish before market closes." Matthew retrieved 2 clay bowls. In each he placed identical portions of yeast and warm water. Hold this one and think of all your morning gratitude. Within moments, the mixture bubbled vigorously. Now hold this one and dwell on afternoon worries. The second mixture remained flat and lifeless. Yeast, he explained, is among the most sensitive beings to human frequency. These ancient creatures remember when humans first discovered their magic. They rise not just from warmth and sugar, but from being honored as the sacred transformers they are. To prove his point, he had Sarah prepare 2 identical doughs. The first she kneaded while reciting thanks for each person who would eat it. The second she prepared while mentally listing her daily tasks. Hours later, the gratitude loaf had risen to twice the size of its distracted twin. Practice the sacred bread blessing. Before preparing any food, 1. Touch each ingredient with reverent awareness. 2. Thank the entire journey that brought it to your hands. And 3. Infuse your preparations with genuine appreciation. 4. Envision the nourishment it will provide. 5. Work in mindful silence or with gratitude songs. 6. Feel yourself as part of an ancient lineage of sacred food preparation. For as Sarah learned in the seasons that followed, the secret ingredient in any recipe is the frequency of the one who prepares it. Her bread became famous throughout the region, not just for its perfect rise, but for how it seemed to feed both body and spirit, each bite carrying the subtle taste of gratitude itself. Chapter 9, The Gardener's Wisdom. On the sacred gardens of the Whispering Temple, where flowers bloomed in impossible patterns and vines wove stories in their growth, temple gardener Aaron Campbell made a peculiar habit of speaking to his plants as if they were his closest confidants. Young scholar Brittany Rodriguez arrived to study the garden's legendary healing properties, expecting to document soil compositions and growing techniques. Instead, she found Aaron engaged in what appeared to be an animated conversation with a withering rose bush. "Watch," he said, noticing her puzzled expression. He directed her attention to 2 identical beds of moonflowers. These beds were planted on the same day, with the same soil and water, yet observe their growth. The flowers on the left reached robustly toward the sky, their petals seeming to pulse with vitality. Those on the right, while alive, grew sideways and downward, their stems twisted away from the path. "The difference?" he asked, eyes twinkling. "The left bed borders the children's meditation garden, where laughter and love flow freely. The right bed faces the complaint hall, where people come to voice their grievances." To demonstrate further, Aaron led Brittany to a special greenhouse divided by crystal walls. In one chamber, he placed 2 seedlings. "Speak to this one with criticism," he instructed, "and to this one with genuine appreciation." After a week, the appreciated seedling had grown twice as tall, leaning noticeably toward where Brittany had stood. The criticized plant had grown stunted and away from her position, its leaves curled inward. "You see," Aaron explained while gently tending a patch of herbs, "plants don't just grow toward sunlight, they grow toward love. They don't just retreat from darkness, they retreat from discord. Every living thing is constantly reading and responding to the frequencies we emit." He showed her ancient scrolls documenting how crops flourished or failed, based not on farming skill, but on the emotional harmony of the farming communities. Our ancestors knew that the most vital nutrient for any garden is the gardener's vibration. Practice the garden frequency method. Before tending any plants, 1. Sit quietly in your growing space, and 2. Feel your heart's energy extending like roots. 3. Genuinely thank each plant for its presence. 4. Share your positive intentions for their growth. 5. Listen for their subtle responses in return. 6. Maintain loving awareness throughout your garden work. For as Brittany learned among those wise and willing plants, the secret to cultivating abundance lies not in what we do to life, but in how we vibrate with it. Her subsequent research revealed what the ancestors had always known, that love is the most powerful fertilizer, and appreciation the sweetest water. Chapter 10. The Scribe's Revelation. In the candlelit archives of the Eternal Library, where scrolls held the whispered wisdom of ages, Master Scribe Jeremy Sullivan confronted a peculiar paradox. His morning chronicles flowed like water from a sacred spring, while his afternoon writings scratched across parchment like dying leaves in autumn wind. On this day, as shadows danced across ancient walls lined with countless scrolls, Jeremy noticed something extraordinary. The very ink seemed to change its nature, depending on his inner state. When writing from joy, it glided with unusual luminescence. When writing from duty, it clumped and splattered, refusing to flow. His wanderings drew the attention of Master Keeper of Records Benjamin Hayes, who had spent 50 years observing the subtle moods of parchment and ink. "Watch," Benjamin instructed, laying out 2 identical sheets. "Write the same sentence on each. First, while thinking of why you love the art of scribing, then while thinking of your daily quota." Jeremy did as asked. The first sentence emerged in flawless calligraphy that seemed to glow faintly in the candlelight. The second appeared awkward and lifeless, though written by the same hand. The ancients knew, Benjamin explained, unrolling a shimmering scroll, written in impossibly perfect script, that parchment itself is alive with consciousness. Every sheet remembers the forest it came from, the sun that fed its leaves. Ink recalls the minerals of earth and water that formed it. When we write from joy, we speak their language. When we write from obligation, we speak only to ourselves. To demonstrate further, Benjamin had Jeremy copy the same sacred text in different states of being. While dwelling on deadlines, the words remained flat symbols. While contemplating the miracle of preserving wisdom across time, those same words seemed to dance with inner light. This is why the first scribe spent years in preparation before touching quilted parchment, Benjamin revealed. For true writing flows not from learned technique, but from aligning one's frequency with the eternal song of storytelling itself. Practice. The Sacred Scribe's Method. Before any act of writing, 1. Hold your writing materials with reverent awareness. 2. Remember why you first fell in love with words. 3. Feel the ancient lineage of storytellers flowing through you. 4. Write one sentence with complete presence. Of 5. If the flow becomes forced, pause and reconnect. 6. Let each word arise from the marriage of joy and purpose. For as Jeremy discovered in that timeless library, mastery comes not from mastering the tools of creation, but from remembering that we too are instruments of expression, meant to channel the universe's endless story through the joyful dance of consciousness and creation. Part 2. The Frequency of Craft and Commerce. Chapter 11. The Trader's Transformation. In the bustling port city of azure tides, where merchant ships carried exotic treasures from distant shores, trader Stephen Martinez grew increasingly frustrated. Despite his encyclopedic knowledge of market patterns and trade routes, his fortunes rose and fell like the temperamental tides themselves. One sweltering afternoon, as he anxiously watched his dwindling inventory, a peculiar figure appeared at his stall. Mystic Megan Anderson, known for her ability to read the invisible currents of prosperity. Her simple clay cup somehow drew more attention than his imported silks. "Your wares carry the scent of fear," she observed, running her fingers through a pile of precious saffron. "See how it clumps defensively, like a creature sensing danger?" "Ridiculous," Stephen scoffed. "Saffron is saffron. It knows nothing of fear." Megan retrieved 2 identical pearls from her pouch. "Hold this one and think of all you fear losing." The pearl seemed to dim. "Now hold this one and feel the joy of abundance." To his astonishment, the second pearl began to gleam with an inner fire. "Everything you trade," she explained, "carries the frequency of your consciousness. When you vibrate scarcity, even gold loses its luster. When you vibrate abundance, even simple clay radiates value." To prove her point, she had him arrange his remaining inventory into 2 displays. The first he set out while calculating his losses, the second while feeling genuine gratitude for the opportunity to serve. As the day progressed, customers consistently gravitated toward the gratitude display, often paying premium prices without haggling. "You see," Megan smiled, "prosperity flows not from market knowledge, but from maintaining abundance frequency even amid apparent lack. The ancient traders knew this. They meditated longer on abundance than they counted their coins." Practice the prosperous merchant's method before engaging in any transaction. 1. Center yourself in unshakable abundance. 2. Bless your wares with genuine appreciation. 3. See each exchange as an opportunity to serve. 4. Feel prosperity flowing through you, not from you. 5. Maintain inner richness regardless of outer circumstances. 6. Thank the universal flow of abundance in advance. For as Stephen discovered in the seasons that followed, true wealth flows not from what we possess, but from our capacity to remain in abundance frequency regardless of external conditions. His trading house became legendary, not just for its goods, but for how every transaction seemed to leave both parties feeling enriched in ways that transcended mere commerce. Chapter 12, The Blacksmith's Fire. In the mountain forge of the Crimson Valley, where ancient volcanoes still whispered their secrets through steam vents and heated springs, Master Blacksmith Robert Phillips was known for crafting blades that seemed to sing with inner light. While other smiths hammered metal into submission, Robert appeared to dance with the molten steel, his creations emerging as if born rather than forged. Young apprentice Christina Garcia had studied metallurgy in 3 kingdoms, yet found herself mystified by how Robert's simplest works outshone the grandest pieces from royal forges. One dawn, as she watched him begin his daily ritual, she noticed something extraordinary. The forge fire itself seemed to lean toward him like a faithful hound. "The ancients knew," Robert mused while heating a blade blank, "that metal remembers the heart of stars where it was born. It dreams of that divine fire." He held up two identical pieces of steel. "Watch." He worked the first piece while deliberately filling himself with frustration and haste. The metal fought him at every strike, cracking along unexpected lines. The second piece he approached with reverent joy, and the steel flowed like liquid moonlight beneath his hammer. "You see," he explained while quenching the blade in sacred oils, "we don't force metal into shape. We remind it of its celestial nature. The fire in our hearts must burn brighter than the fire in our forge." To demonstrate further, Robert had Christina forge two simple bells, one while thinking of duty and technique, another while connecting to the pure joy of creation. When struck, the first rang dully, while the second produced harmonics that made the whole forge hum in sympathy. "This is why the first smiths were also priests," he revealed, "for true forging happens not through muscle, but through merging our inner flame with the eternal fire that burns at the heart of all matter." Practice the sacred smith's method before approaching any creative work. 1. Kindle your inner fire through conscious breathing. 2. Feel the eternal flame that lives in all things. 3. Let your joy burn brighter than your forge. 4. Move with reverent purpose, not forced will. 5. Listen for the song within your materials. 6. Create from the marriage of passion and presence. For as Christina discovered in that mystical forge, mastery comes not from imposing our will upon the elements, but from remembering that we, too, are forged from stellar fire, meant to shape reality through the sacred dance of consciousness and creation. Chapter 13. The Storyteller's Magic. In the moonlit gathering spaces of the whispering plains, where tales floated on evening breezes like seeds of wisdom seeking fertile minds, wandering storyteller Tiffany Rodriguez discovered an extraordinary phenomenon. When she told stories from mere memory, listeners would nod politely and soon forget. But when she spoke from the depths of her heart, her words would take root in their souls, sprouting into transformative insights that flourished for generations. One evening, as fireflies danced like earthbound stars around the village circle, Elder Justin Campbell approached her after witnessing how her tale of the dawn bird had caused flowers to spontaneously bloom in its wake. "You've stumbled upon the ancient secret," he said, retrieving a crystal vessel that seemed to capture and amplify the firelight. "Watch." He spoke the same simple phrase twice, first as empty words, then infused with loving intention. In the second telling, the crystal began to pulse with gentle light. "Stories are vessels of consciousness," Justin explained, carrying the narrator's vibration into the hearts of listeners. When we speak from technical skill alone, we transmit information. When we speak from aligned presence, we transmit transformation. To demonstrate, he had Tiffany tell the same brief tale in 3 ways. First while thinking of technique, then while feeling compassion, and finally while in a state of pure wonder. As she spoke, the fireflies responded, scattering during the first telling, drawing closer during the second and during the third, forming intricate patterns that mirrored her words in living light. The first storytellers, Justin revealed, knew that tales were not mere entertainment, but energetic seeds planted in the garden of consciousness. Their words carried the power to heal nations or wake the sleeping soul of humanity. Practice the sacred storyteller's method. Before sharing any tale, 1. Center yourself in pure presence. 2. Feel the story alive within your heart. 3. Let wonder be your primary vibration. 4. Speak from resonance, not recitation. 5. Trust the tale to find its own form. 6. Allow your consciousness to dance with your listeners. For as Tiffany discovered in the seasons that followed, true storytelling magic flows not from memorized words, but from the storyteller's ability to become a clear channel for the eternal narratives that weave reality itself. Her tales became known not just for their content, but for how they seemed to awaken ancient memories in all who heard them, as if the very air remembered its first song. Before we get into the next chapter, you can download a free ebook version of this audiobook using the link in the pinned comment below this video. Chapter 14, The Fisherman's Net. Along the Whispering Coast, where jade waters carried ancient secrets in their depths, fisherman Mark Thompson faced a puzzling mystery. Despite his masterful knowledge of tides and seasonal patterns, his nets would come back bursting with fish one day, yet eerily empty the next. His desperation growing with each meager catch, Mark sought wisdom from Amber Collins, the mysterious woman who lived in a pearl-encrusted dwelling where sea met shore. Local fishermen whispered that she could speak to the ocean itself. "Your nets smell of fear," she observed, running weathered fingers along his ropes. "The sea recoils from need like anemones from shadow." To demonstrate, she led Mark to a tide pool where silvery fish darted in the crystalline water. "Reach for them with grasping hands," she instructed. The fish scattered instantly. "Now, hold your hands still in gratitude for their presence." Gradually the fish returned, some even brushing against his fingers. "The ancients understood," Amber explained, "that water carries memory. When you cast nets with desperation, you push abundance away. When you fish with reverence, the sea offers its gifts freely." She had Mark prepare 2 identical nets. The first he cast while focusing on his empty storage jars, his mind heavy with worry. The second he cast after they performed a blessing ritual, his heart full of appreciation for the ocean's generosity. The difference in his catch was undeniable. "You see," she smiled, "abundance flows not toward those who need it most, but toward those who appreciate it best. The sea responds to worthiness, not want." Practice the reverent fisherman's method before casting any net. First, stand in gratitude for the ocean's abundance. 2. Bless your tools with genuine appreciation. 3. Release all desperate need for results. 4. Feel worthy of receiving nature's gifts. 5. Thank the waters before they yield their treasure. 6. Maintain peaceful trust regardless of the catch. For as Mark discovered in the seasons that followed, true abundance flows not from mastery of technique, but from mastery of consciousness. His fishing spot became known not just for its generous catches, but for how the very waters seemed to dance with joy when his boat approached, as if the sea itself celebrated their sacred exchange. And sometimes, on particularly blessed mornings, other fishermen would witness schools of fish literally leaping into Mark's nets, demonstrating that nature responds not to what we demand, but to what we become. Chapter 15, The Jeweler's Eye. In the hidden valleys of the Crystal Mountains, where light itself seemed to crystallize into rainbow-hued stones, master jeweler Michelle Rodriguez was known for creating pieces that appeared to glow from within, while other craftsmen merely cut and polished gems. Her work seemed to capture and amplify the very essence of light itself. Young apprentice Ryan Garcia had mastered every technical aspect of the craft, yet his stones remained somehow lifeless compared to Michelle's radiant creations. One morning, as dawn's first rays filtered through the workshop's crystal windows, he witnessed something extraordinary. The raw gems on Michelle's workbench appeared to shimmer in response to her presence alone. "The stones are not deaf," Michelle smiled, lifting an uncut sapphire. "They simply won't speak to those who refuse to listen." She placed identical raw crystals before them both. "Observe." She had Ryan approach his stone with purely technical intention, measuring angles and calculating facets. The crystal remained stubbornly dull. Then she guided him to sit in reverent silence with the second stone, teaching him to feel its ancient journey from starlight to earth. As Ryan's consciousness shifted from analysis to wonder, the crystal began to pulse with subtle luminescence, revealing exactly where it wished to be cut. "You see," Michelle explained, "gems don't submit to being shaped. They collaborate with those who honor their wisdom." To further illustrate, she blindfolded Ryan and placed 3 stones in his hands, one cut with technical precision, one shaped through reverent partnership, and one still raw. Without seeing, he could instantly feel which stone hummed with inner light. "This is why the first jewelers were considered seers," she revealed, "for true gemcraft happens not through imposing our will, but through awakening the light that has slumbered in stone since the dawn of time." Practice the sacred jeweler's method before working with any stone. 1. Sit in reverent silence with the crystal. 2. Feel its journey from stardust to earth. 3. Listen for its whispered wisdom. 4. Let it guide your hands. 5. Shape through partnership, not force. 6. Honor the light within all matter. For as Ryan discovered in that luminous workshop, mastery comes not from technical skill alone, but from remembering that we too are crystallized light, meant to awaken the sleeping radiance in all we touch through the sacred art of conscious creation. In time, his work became known not just for its beauty, but for how each piece seemed to shine with its own inner sun, as if the very stones rejoiced at being truly seen at last. Chapter 16. The Dancer's Flow. In the temple of resonant shadows, where towering alabaster pillars caught and amplified the smallest whisper, sacred dancer Elizabeth Martinez made a startling discovery. During her dawn practices, she noticed the temple's very acoustics seemed to shift with her movements, not just reflecting sound, but actively shaping it into new harmonies. One morning, as shafts of amber light painted geometric patterns across the temple floor, Elder Sean Phillips observed her dance, creating impossible echoes. Sounds that spiraled upward instead of fading, tones that seemed to flow like water through the air. "You've awakened the temple's voice," he said, his eyes bright with recognition. The ancient architects built these halls not just as structures, but as instruments, waiting to be played by those who understand the dance of energy. To demonstrate, he had Elizabeth perform the same sequence 3 times. First, while focused solely on technique, the echoes remained ordinary. Next, while letting joy flow through her movements, the sounds began to swirl. Finally, while in complete harmony with the space itself, and suddenly every pillar hummed in resonance, creating a symphony of stone and spirit. The first temple dancers, Sean revealed, were not mere performers, but shapers of reality. Their movements conducted the very energies of creation, transforming spaces through the alchemy of aligned vibration. He guided Elizabeth to a corner where the shadows seemed particularly dense. "Dance with intention to shift this heaviness," he instructed. As she moved with conscious purpose, the darkness gradually lifted, replaced by a palpable lightness that remained long after she finished. "You see," he smiled, "when consciousness aligns with movement, we become conductors of universal energy. The space itself responds to our inner harmony." Practice. The sacred movement method. Before beginning any practice, 1. Feel the space's existing energy. 2. Align your breath with its rhythm. 3. Let your movements arise from stillness. 4. Dance as if the air is alive. 5. Feel each gesture ripple outward. 6. Allow the space to dance through you. For as Elizabeth discovered in the cycles that followed, true mastery flows not from perfected form, but from the dancer's ability to become a living channel for the eternal rhythms that pulse through all creation. Her dawn practices became known, not just for their beauty, but for how the very temple seemed to breathe with her, as if stone and spirit had finally remembered their original dance. And on particularly blessed mornings, visitors would witness the impossible, sunbeams bending to follow her movements, shadows flowing like liquid light, as Elizabeth demonstrated that all of reality yearns to dance with those who remember its sacred choreography. Chapter 17. The Mapmaker's Journey. In the valley of shifting mists, where ancient paths appeared and vanished like morning dreams, cartographer David Anderson faced an impossible task. The Emperor had commanded him to create an accurate map of the legendary Crystal Caves, a maze of passages that seemed to rearrange themselves with each new visitor. After 3 failed expeditions left him with nothing but smudged parchments and confusion, David sought the counsel of Heather Sullivan, a mysterious woman known for walking paths that others couldn't see. She lived in a dwelling whose doorway somehow faced both east and west simultaneously. "Your compass points true," she observed, examining his tools, "but your heart trembles with fear of failure. The caves mirror your inner landscape." To demonstrate, she led David to a rock face that appeared solid. "See with obligation," she instructed. He saw only stone. "Now see with wonder." As David shifted his perspective, a previously invisible archway shimmered into view. "The ancients knew," Heather explained, that reality responds not to what we seek, but to how we seek it. When you map with anxiety, the paths hide themselves. When you explore with joy, the way reveals itself. She had David attempt to map the same chamber twice. First, while focusing on accuracy and deadline pressure, his measurements proved impossible, with distances changing between each step. Then, after they performed a ritual of exploratory blessing, letting curiosity guide his hands, suddenly the chamber's true nature emerged, showing passages that spiraled through dimensions he'd never imagined. "You see," she smiled, "the best maps are drawn not by those who demand answers, but by those who dance with mystery." Practice. The Conscious Explorer's Method. Before beginning any journey, 1. Release all expectations of what you'll find. 2. Bless your path with genuine curiosity. 3. Let wonder be your compass. 4. Trust that every turn serves your journey. 5. Map with reverence for the unknown. 6. Celebrate each discovery as a gift. For as David discovered in the seasons that followed, true cartography flows not from measuring distance, but from measuring wonder. His maps became known, not just for their accuracy, but for how they seemed to reveal new paths to each traveler, as if the very parchment collaborated in each seeker's unique journey. And sometimes, on particularly blessed expeditions, others would witness paths literally forming beneath David's feet as he walked, demonstrating that reality delights in revealing itself to those who approach with open hearts rather than grasping minds. Chapter 18. The Astronomer's Vision. High atop the celestial peak, where the air grew thin enough to whisper secrets to the stars, astronomer Jason Rodriguez puzzled over the ancient charts that seemed to shift before his eyes. Despite years of careful observation, the celestial patterns remained stubbornly elusive, appearing with crystal clarity one night only to dissolve into chaos the next. It was during one particularly frustrating evening that Elder Kimberly Martinez found him frantically recalculating his measurements. Her observatory, carved from a single massive crystal, was said to contain windows that looked not just at the stars, but through them. "Your instruments are precise," she noted, examining his carefully crafted astrolabe, "but your spirit churns like storm clouds before the moon." To demonstrate, she had Jason observe the Pleiades through his telescope while anxiously seeking answers. The stars appeared as mere smudges of light. Then she guided him through an ancient star-breathing ritual, teaching him to match his breath to the pulsing of distant suns. As his consciousness settled into cosmic rhythm, the same stars suddenly blazed with unprecedented clarity, revealing dancing patterns of light he'd never glimpsed before. "The heavens," Kimberly explained, "speak only to those who match their frequency." She led him to a hidden chamber where star maps from 1,000 years ago had been etched in crystal. "Our ancestors understood that celestial wisdom flows not through calculation, but through constellation, the aligning of inner and outer skies." To prove this, she had Jason study the same star cluster 3 times. First, while wrestling with mathematical formulae, the patterns remained chaotic. Next, while allowing his mind to drift peacefully, subtle connections emerged. Finally, while in complete receptive stillness, and suddenly the stars themselves seemed to sing their secrets directly into his understanding. Practice the celestial attunement method before any stargazing. 1. Breathe in rhythm with stellar pulsing. 2. Release all demand for answers. 3. Let your consciousness expand outward. 4. Allow the stars to find you. 5. Receive wisdom rather than grasp it. 6. Record insights with reverent patience, for as Jason discovered in the cycles that followed, true astronomy flows not from measuring light, but from becoming light. His observations became renowned, not just for their accuracy, but for revealing layers of celestial meaning that transformed those who studied them. And on especially clear nights, others would witness impossible phenomena around his observatory. Stars that seemed to dance in response to his attention, constellations that revealed new patterns according to the questions in observers' hearts, as Jason demonstrated that the cosmos eagerly shares its mysteries with those who approach with peace rather than demand. Chapter 19. The Perfumer's Art. In the hidden valley of 1,000 blooms, where even the morning dew carried whispers of ethereal fragrance, master perfumer Samantha Garcia worked her aromatic alchemy in a temple carved from translucent rose quartz. The crystal walls seemed to breathe with the essences they contained, each chamber holding scents said to unlock different dimensions of consciousness. When apprentice Brandon Thompson arrived seeking her teachings, she found him methodically attempting to replicate classical perfume recipes with frustrated precision. His creations, while technically correct, carried none of the transcendent qualities the ancient text described. "You measure with your mind," she observed, watching him count drops of jasmine oil. "But perfume must be measured with the soul." To demonstrate, she had Brandon close his eyes while she opened 3 identical vials of rose essence. These came from the same flowers, she explained, but were extracted in different states of being. The first, created in haste, smelled sharp and incomplete. The second, made with technical precision, was pleasant but ordinary. The third, crafted in a state of devoted presence, filled the chamber with such profound beauty that Brandon felt tears well in his eyes. The ancients knew, Samantha revealed, that essences carry not just scent, but the very consciousness of their creator. When we blend in alignment with the soul of each ingredient, we create not mere perfume, but liquid light. She guided Brandon through crafting a simple blend 3 times. First, while focusing on formula, it smelled correct but lifeless. Next, while appreciating each essence, it began to sing. Finally, while in complete communion with the ingredients, and suddenly the fragrance seemed to glow from within, carrying harmonies of scent he'd never imagined possible. Practice the sacred essence method before working with any aromatic materials. 1. Center your consciousness in reverent presence. 2. Breathe with each essence until you feel its spirit. And 3rd, let scents choose their own combinations. 4. Blend with your whole being, not just your nose. 5. Allow fragrances to teach you their wisdom. 6th, trust in the intelligence of aromatic communion. For as Brandon discovered in the seasons that followed, true perfumery flows not from combining scents, but from combining consciousness with creation. His fragrances became known not just for their beauty, but for how they seemed to awaken ancient memories in those who experienced them. And on particularly blessed days, visitors would witness impossible phenomena in his workshop, visible waves of colored light emanating from his blends, scents that could heal broken hearts or grant visions of other worlds. As Brandon demonstrated that when we align with the soul of nature, even the invisible becomes gloriously tangible. Chapter 20. The Builder's Foundation. In the sacred city of eternal stone, where buildings seemed to grow from the earth like crystalline flowers, master builder Timothy Collins faced his greatest challenge. The High Temple had commissioned him to construct a meditation pavilion that would enhance the spiritual practices of all who entered it. Despite his renowned skill with stone and geometry, Timothy's initial attempts left visitors feeling strangely unsettled. The proportions were perfect, yet something essential was missing. Troubled, he sought the counsel of Rachel Allen, an enigmatic architect whose structures were said to sing with inner light. "Your measurements are flawless," she observed, running her hand along a marble column, "but these stones carry the echo of your doubt. Buildings remember the thoughts of their makers." To demonstrate, she led Timothy to 3 identical chambers she had built. These walls used the same stone, she explained, but were raised in different states of consciousness. The first, built under pressure of time, felt oppressive and cold. The second, constructed with technical precision, stood serviceable but lifeless. The third, created in devotion, seemed to radiate peace from its very foundations. Even the air inside felt blessed. The ancients understood, Rachel revealed, that architecture is frozen music. Each block must be laid not just with skill, but with sacred intention. When we build in harmony with universal law, our structures become vessels of transformation. She guided Timothy through placing 3 cornerstone blocks. The first, laid while thinking of deadlines, sat heavily on the earth. The second, set with respectful focus, joined properly with its neighbors. The third, positioned with blessing and reverence, seemed to hum with subtle energy, as if eager to participate in its own placement. Practice the sacred builder's method before raising any structure. 1. Purify your consciousness through gratitude. 2. Bless each material as a divine collaborator. 3. Listen to the land's wisdom for placement. 4th, lay each stone as if crafting a prayer. 5. Infuse the space with intended virtue. 6. Thank the finished form for its service. For as Timothy discovered in the years that followed, true architecture flows not from stacking stones, but from dancing with divine geometry. His buildings became known not just for their beauty, but for how they seemed to nurture the souls of those who dwelled within them. And on especially blessed sites, others would witness impossible phenomena. Walls that glowed with inner light, rooms that adjusted their dimensions to serve occupants' needs, spaces that actively participated in healing those who entered, as Timothy demonstrated that when we build with love, even stone awakens to its higher purpose. Part 3, The Frequency of Mastery and Wisdom. Chapter 21, The Oracle's Mirror. In the Valley of Whispered Truths, where reality rippled like water in a sacred pool, Temple Oracle Amy Rodriguez discovered an ancient truth that would transform the art of prophecy forever. Unlike other oracles who relied on dramatic ceremonies and cryptic proclamations, Amy had always sensed there was a simpler way to access universal wisdom. It was during the season of falling stars when Kevin Hamilton, a troubled truth seeker, arrived at her sanctuary. His arms laden with divination tools, crystals, runes, and charts, he sought to learn the mysteries of prophecy. "Put those away," Amy said softly, leading him to a chamber whose walls were crafted from polished obsidian. True prophecy requires no tools beyond consciousness itself. To demonstrate, she had Kevin stand before 3 identical mirrors. These reflect not just light, she explained, but the frequency of the viewer's being. In the first mirror, viewed through his anxiety about the future, Kevin saw only shadowy distortions. In the second, approached with analytical mind, he glimpsed fragmented images. But in the third, witnessed in a state of pure receptivity, the surface seemed to dissolve into windows of profound clarity, revealing truths that brought tears to his eyes. The universe, Amy revealed, constantly broadcasts wisdom on every frequency. When we align our consciousness with truth's vibration, prophecy flows naturally as water downstream. She guided Kevin through 3 attempts to receive insight about a merchant's question. First, while straining to see visions, only confusion emerged. Next, while quieting his mind, fragments of understanding appeared. Finally, while completely aligning with universal frequency, and suddenly wisdom poured through him with crystalline clarity. Practice the clear-seeing method and before seeking any prophetic insight. 1. Release all tools and techniques. 2. Align your frequency with universal peace. 3. Become empty like a clear mirror. 4. Allow wisdom to find its own voice. 5. Trust the first pure knowing that arrives. 6. Share insights with humble accuracy. For as Kevin discovered in the moons that followed, true prophecy flows not from seeking visions but from becoming a pure vessel for truth. His readings became known not for spectacular predictions, but for the profound clarity they brought to those who received them. And in sacred moments others would witness impossible phenomena around him, air that shimmered with visible wisdom, words that appeared written in light, insights that transform both speaker and receiver, as Kevin demonstrated that when we align with truth's frequency, the universe eagerly shares its deepest mysteries through us. Chapter 22. The Merchant Prince's Lesson. In the gilded city of thousand fountains, where coins flowed like water through marble-lined bazaars, Merchant Prince Christopher Garcia had amassed such wealth that his counting houses could no longer contain it. Yet, despite his overflowing treasuries, a peculiar emptiness haunted his nights. It was during the Festival of Golden Leaves when he encountered Melissa Campbell, a humble water-bearer who served at the temple fountains. Though she owned nothing but her clay pitcher, her eyes sparkled with a contentment that both puzzled and drew him. Your pitcher seems to never empty," he observed one dawn, watching her serve countless travelers without returning to the well. "The water flows endlessly," she smiled, "because I never try to hold it. Would you like to understand?" She led him to 3 identical fountains in the temple courtyard. "These waters carry the same blessing," she explained, "but respond differently to how they're approached." The first fountain, which merchants used to hoard water in jugs, had nearly run dry. The second, where people drew what they needed, flowed steadily. But the third, where travelers drank and shared freely with others, seemed to bubble with impossible abundance, its water sparkling like liquid light. "Wealth," Melissa revealed, "follows the law of the fountain. When we grip it tightly, it stagnates. When we let it flow through us to others, it multiplies beyond imagination." She guided Christopher through 3 ways of sharing his gold. First, giving with calculation. It felt heavy and brought no joy. Next, giving with duty. It felt proper, but empty. Finally, giving with delight in others' happiness. And suddenly his whole treasury seemed to shimmer with new vitality, as if awakening to its true purpose. Practice the sacred circulation method before engaging with any form of wealth. First, center in the joy of sharing. 2. Release all attachment to outcome. 3. Give first to set energy in motion. 4. Celebrate others' abundance. 5. Trust in the flow of prosperity. 6. Let gratitude guide your giving, for as Christopher discovered in the years that followed, true wealth flows not from accumulation but from circulation. His fortune became legendary not for its size but for how it seemed to multiply the more generously he shared it. And on blessed market days others would witness impossible phenomena. Coins that multiplied spontaneously in the hands of the needy, treasuries that refilled mysteriously after being emptied for good causes, prosperity that spread like morning light through the entire city. As Christopher demonstrated that when we master the art of joyful giving, abundance becomes as limitless as the sky. Chapter 23, The Warrior's Peace. In the valley of silent thunder, Where ancient conflicts had carved deep scars into the mountainsides, the feared warrior Jennifer Martinez stood undefeated in 1,000 battles. Yet despite her legendary prowess, she found herself haunted by an emptiness that no victory could fill. It was during the Moon of Falling Leaves when she encountered Daniel Rodriguez, a mysterious monk who tended a garden at the crossroads where armies often clashed. Though countless battles had raged around his sanctuary, not a single blade of grass had ever been disturbed. "Your garden remains untouched by war," she observed, studying the pristine flowers. "What secret technique protects it?" "Come," he smiled, leading her to 3 identical training grounds. "Let me show you the true nature of invincibility." In the first arena, 2 warriors fought with desperate aggression, both ending bloodied and exhausted. In the second, skilled fighters exchanged calculated blows, achieving stalemate. But in the third, Daniel moved like morning mist through a group of attackers, remaining untouched while his opponent stumbled into empty air. True protection, he revealed, comes not from opposing force with force, but from aligning with the natural flow of existence. Watch. He demonstrated 3 ways to handle an incoming strike. First, meeting it with resistance. Both parties were jarred. Next, dodging with technique, requiring constant vigilance. Finally, harmonizing with the attack's energy, and amazingly, the strike seemed to dissolve around him like water around a stone. Practice the invincible peace method before any confrontation. First, center in unshakable stillness. 2. Feel the universal rhythm. 3. Release all tension and resistance. 4. Move like wind through leaves. 5. Let harmony guide your response. 6. Remain peaceful amid chaos. For as Jennifer discovered in the seasons that followed, true invincibility flows not from conquering others, but from mastering inner peace. Her reputation transformed from most feared to most respected, as she demonstrated protection through presence rather than power. And in sacred moments, others would witness impossible phenomena around her, weapons that turned to flowers mid-strike, armies that forgot their conflicts in her presence, peace that spread like dawn through battlefields. As Jennifer revealed, that when we embody harmony, even war must bow to the greater power of tranquility. Chapter 24. The Mother's Love. In the Valley of Gentle Whispers, where mountain mists cradled ancient villages in their soft embrace, lived a mother named Stephanie Thompson, whose 3 children seemed to hear only half her words. Despite her careful instructions and constant guidance, they appeared to absorb little of her teaching. It was during the season of dancing leaves when she encountered Brian Phillips, an elder known as the Child Whisperer, whose presence alone could calm the most turbulent young spirits. Children would transform in his company, though he spoke barely a word. "Your voice carries more than words," he observed, watching her struggle to manage her youngest. "Let me show you what children truly hear." He led her to 3 identical courtyards where mothers gathered with their little ones. In the first, a mother spoke constant instructions with underlying anxiety. Her child grew more restless with each word. In the second, a mother recited lessons with detached patience. Her child paid polite but fleeting attention. But in the third, a mother simply radiated peaceful joy while folding clothes, and remarkably, her child naturally mirrored her movements with delighted focus. Children, Brian revealed, respond not to our instructions but to the melody of our being. Watch. He demonstrated 3 ways to teach a child to tend flowers. First, through worried correction, the child became clumsy and withdrawn. Next, through careful explanation, the child followed briefly, then lost interest. Finally, through shared wonder at each blossom's beauty, and amazingly, the child's innate wisdom blossomed like the flowers themselves. Practice the nurturing frequency method before any interaction with children. First, center in the joy of being. 2. Let love fill your presence. 3. Trust children's natural wisdom. 4th, share wonder before instruction. 5. Listen with your whole being. 6. Let your peace be their teacher. For as Stephanie discovered in the moons that followed, true parenting flows not from words, but from presence. Her home transformed from a place of constant correction to one of natural harmony, as she learned to parent through consciousness rather than control. And in blessed moments, others would witness impossible scenes in her garden, children spontaneously sharing without being asked, wisdom beyond their years flowing from their lips, love that spread like morning light through the village. As Stephanie demonstrated that when we vibrate with pure nurturing presence, children naturally grow toward their highest potential. Chapter 25, The Philosopher's Question. In the mountain of perpetual dawn, where mists parted each morning to reveal ancient stone circles etched with forgotten riddles, philosopher Matthew Collins had spent 20 years documenting every argument for truth's nature. His scrolls contained 10,000 logical proofs, yet understanding remained elusive as morning dew. It was during the time of falling stars when he encountered Ashley Garcia, keeper of the riddle stones, who spent her days tracing the weathered symbols with knowing fingers, while humming strange melodies. Though she had never written a single treatise, visitors left her presence with eyes bright with revelation. "Your circles speak without words," he observed, watching the stones seem to pulse with inner light as she traced them. "How do you extract their wisdom?" "Come," she smiled, leading him to 3 identical stone circles at dawn. "Let truth reveal itself to you." In the first circle, scholars debated with fierce logic, growing more confused with each argument. In the second, students memorized ancient texts, gaining knowledge but not understanding. But in the third, where Ashley sat in contemplative silence, the very stones seemed to whisper wisdom directly into the heart. "Truth," she revealed, "speaks not through thoughts but through resonance. Listen." She demonstrated 3 ways to approach a riddle carved in stone. First, through analytical dissection, the meaning scattered like startled birds. Next, through scholarly research, the mystery remained locked in facts. Finally, through silent attunement, and remarkably, understanding arose like light within him. Practice the wisdom resonance method. Before seeking any truth, 1. Release all mental grasping. 2. Enter complete stillness. 3. Allow wonder to fill you. 4. Listen with your whole being. 5. Let wisdom arise naturally. 6. Trust the heart's knowing. For as Matthew discovered in the years that followed, true understanding flows not from thought, but from resonance. His reputation transformed from greatest debater to wisest teacher, as he learned to transmit truth through presence rather than proofs. And in sacred moments, others would witness impossible phenomena in his circle, stones that glowed with inner light, riddles that solved themselves in silence, wisdom that spread like dawn through the mountains. So, as Matthew demonstrated, that when we vibrate with pure receptivity, truth reveals itself more clearly than any logic could capture. Chapter 26, The Painter's Canvas. In the Valley of Living Pigments, where rainbow mists dance through ancient caverns stained with colors no modern eye has seen, master painter Joshua Martinez created works that seemed to breathe with their own life force. His paintings didn't merely capture light, they emanated it, casting their own luminescence into darkened rooms. When apprentice Nicole Anderson arrived seeking his teachings, she brought technical mastery, but found her works lifeless compared to his radiant creations. "Your pigments seem awakened," she observed, watching his latest piece pulse with inner fire. "What secret materials do you use?" "Come," he smiled, leading her to 3 identical chambers where painters worked with the same rare pigments from the sacred caves. In the first, an artist painted with technical precision, producing beautiful but flat images. In the second, one worked with passionate intensity, creating dramatic but chaotic scenes. But in the third, Joshua demonstrated his method, entering profound communion with each color before letting it flow onto the canvas. "Watch," he instructed, taking 3 identical vessels of azure powder. He painted 3 circles, one with skill alone. It dried dull. Another with emotional force. It became uneven. The third he approached with reverent awareness, and amazingly, it began to shimmer with sky-like depth. "Pigments," he revealed, "are not mere substances, but sleeping spirits of the earth. They awaken not through technique, but through the consciousness we bring to them." Practice the living color method before touching any pigment. First, center in pure awareness. 2, feel the color's inner essence. 3, let your heart attune to its frequency. 4, invite rather than impose. 5, move like light through crystal. 6, paint from presence, not purpose. For as Nicole discovered in the moons that followed, true artistry flows not from skill, but from communion with the living essence of color. Her paintings transformed from technically perfect to luminously alive as she learned to create through consciousness rather than control. And in sacred moments, others would witness impossible phenomena in her studio, pigments that dance like aurora lights, colors never before seen by human eyes, beauty that spread like dawn through the valley, as Nicole revealed that when we vibrate in harmony with the soul of color, even paint must surrender to the greater power of living light. Chapter 27, The Judge's Balance. In the Valley of 7 Scales, where ancient justice stones hummed with the weight of countless verdicts, village judge Aaron Rodriguez presided over disputes with unwavering adherence to written law. Despite his vast knowledge of precedents, he found that even his most carefully reasoned judgments often left both parties feeling wronged. During the season of balancing myths, he encountered Brittany Thompson, a wandering arbitrator known as the Equalizer, whose simple presence could transform bitter enemies into peaceful neighbors. Though she knew few formal laws, her resolutions brought lasting harmony to communities. "Your scales measure more than facts," she observed, watching him struggle with a complex land dispute. "Let me show you what justice truly weighs." She led him to 3 identical courtyards where disputes were being settled. In the first, a magistrate quoted laws precisely. The conflict only intensified. In the second, a mediator sought logical compromise. temporary peace, but lingering resentment. But in the third, Brittany demonstrated her method, first attuning to the frequency of pure fairness before speaking a word. "Watch," she instructed, taking 3 similar cases. First, she approached one through strict law. Discord grew. Next, through rational negotiation, surface peace masked deeper tension. Finally, through resonance with justice itself, and remarkably, both parties spontaneously found their way to true resolution. Justice, she revealed, flows not from knowledge, but from alignment with harmony's perfect frequency. When we vibrate with pure fairness, wisdom emerges naturally. Practice. The balanced resonance method. Before hearing any case, 1. Release all preconceptions. 2. Center in perfect equilibrium. 3. Feel harmony's frequency. 4. Listen with your whole being. 5. Let wisdom arise, unprompted. 6. Trust the heart's fairness. For as Aaron discovered in the cycles that followed, true justice flows not from law, but from consciousness. His courtyard transformed from a place of judgment to a temple of harmony, as he learned to arbitrate through resonance rather than rules. And in sacred moments, others would witness impossible scenes in his chamber, ancient scales moving without touch, adversaries embracing his family, peace that spread like morning light through the valley, as Aaron demonstrated that when we vibrate with pure impartiality, justice becomes a force of transformation rather than division. Chapter 28, The Inventor's Innovation. In the Valley of Whispering Gears, where ancient mechanical marvels turned endlessly without human touch, inventor Jeremy Garcia struggled to unlock the secret of self-moving mechanisms. Though his workshop overflowed with half-finished creations, none achieved the perpetual motion of the valley's legendary devices. During the season of dancing metal, he encountered Megan Sullivan, keeper of the eternal machines, who spent her days in silent communion with spinning wheels that defied natural laws. Though she used no tools, impossible devices assembled themselves in her presence. "Your machines speak a different language," he observed, watching metal parts orbit around her like planets around a sun. "How do you command them?" "Come." She smiled, leading him to 3 identical workshops at dawn. In the first, craftsmen forced metal with hammers and heat. Their creations remained lifeless. In the second, engineers calculated precise measurements. Their devices moved briefly, then stopped. But in the third, where Megan sat in resonant stillness, raw materials spontaneously assembled into wondrous inventions. "Watch," she instructed, placing 3 identical sets of components before them. First, she approached them through technical skill. They remained inert. Next, through mathematical precision, they aligned but didn't animate. Finally, through vibrational attunement, and amazingly, the pieces danced together into a living mechanism. "Innovation," she revealed, "flows not from force but from frequency. When we vibrate with pure possibility, matter itself awakens to its highest potential." Practice the possibility field method. Before attempting any creation, 1. Release all limiting beliefs. 2. Enter infinite potential space. 3. Feel the frequency of possibility. 4th, let solutions arise naturally. 5. Trust the material's wisdom. 6. Follow energy rather than effort. For as Jeremy discovered in the moons that followed, true invention flows not from mind, but from resonance with the possible. His workshop transformed from a place of struggle to a temple of spontaneous creation, as he learned to innovate through alignment rather than effort. And in sacred moments, others would witness impossible scenes in his chamber, metal moving like liquid light, devices assembling themselves from raw materials, innovations that spread like dawn through the valley. As Jeremy demonstrated that when we vibrate with pure potential, even the laws of nature must bow to the greater power of possibility. Chapter 29, The Teacher's Gift. In the valley of whispering leaves, where ancient scrolls floated like autumn memories through halls of living wisdom, master teacher Stephen Campbell had spent decades perfecting his methods of instruction. His lectures were flawless, his metaphors precise. Yet he noticed his most profound teachings often failed to take root in his students' hearts. During the season of falling stars, young Christina Martinez arrived at his school, a girl who spoke little but whose presence somehow awakened deep understanding in those around her. Though she rarely explained anything directly, other students had breakthrough revelations simply sitting near her during meditation. "Your silence teaches more than my words," he observed, watching her transform a struggling student's understanding through nothing more than shared contemplation. "What mystery is this?" She led him to 3 identical courtyards where teachers worked with students. In the first, an instructor lectured brilliantly. Students memorized but didn't transform. In the second, a teacher used clever techniques. Students engaged but soon forgot. But in the third, Christina demonstrated her gift, simply holding the frequency of pure understanding until it naturally arose in others. "Watch," she whispered, approaching 3 students struggling with ancient texts. First, she tried explaining. They remained confused. Next, she used creative methods. They briefly grasped, then lost it. Finally, she simply entered the state of complete comprehension, and amazingly, deep understanding dawned in their eyes without a word being spoken. Wisdom, she revealed, transfers not through information but through resonance. When we embody truth purely, others naturally attune to its frequency. Practice the resonant teaching method, and before attempting to teach, first release all need to impart. 2. Enter the state of pure knowing. 3. Feel wisdom's living frequency. 4th, let understanding arise naturally. 5. Trust the silence between words. 6. Teach through being, not doing. For as Stephen discovered in the seasons that followed, true teaching flows not from technique but from consciousness. His school transformed from a place of instruction to a field of spontaneous awakening as he learned to teach through presence rather than presentation. And in sacred moments, others would witness impossible scenes in his courtyard, ancient wisdom appearing as visible light, students achieving instant mastery, understanding that spread like dawn through the valley. As Stephen demonstrated that when we vibrate with pure knowing, even the barriers of mind must yield to the greater power of direct transmission. Chapter 30, The Sage's Return. In the valley of living light, where reality itself shimmered like sunlight on water, the people of Crystalport awaited the return of wandering sage Robert Anderson. 10 cycles earlier, he had departed their shores as a respected but ordinary teacher. The person who returned was something else entirely. Skeptical merchant Tiffany Rodriguez watched from her shop as Robert walked the ancient stones of the marketplace. Where his feet touched, ripples of golden light spread outward. Plants turned to follow his movement, not his shadow. The very air seemed to dance around him like a living thing. "Impossible," she whispered as a cluster of butterflies manifested from pure light near his hands, scattered among laughing children, then dissolved back into radiance. "Only if you believe it so." Robert smiled, his voice carrying the resonance of distant bells. "Reality is far more fluid than we once thought." He gathered the townspeople in the circle of first light, where the morning sun first touched their valley each dawn. There, he demonstrated 3 states of being. First, he stood as an ordinary man, solid, separate, bound by physical laws. Next, he shifted into partial awareness, his form becoming subtly luminous, objects responding to his thoughts. Finally, he entered complete integration, his entire being becoming living light, the boundary between self and reality dissolving entirely. "Watch closely," he instructed, taking 3 identical river stones. As an ordinary man, he could only stack them normally. In partial awareness, they floated slightly, but in full integration, the stones transformed into pure light, danced through impossible patterns, then reformed as precious gems. Mastery, he revealed, is not about controlling reality, but becoming one with its deepest nature. When we vibrate in perfect harmony with existence itself, we remember that we are not separate from its dance. Practice the integration method. Before engaging with reality, 1. Release all sense of separation. 2. Feel your essential nature as living light. 3. Merge with the universal dance. 4. Let reality move through you naturally. 5. Trust the flow of pure being. 6. Participate rather than manipulate. For as the townspeople discovered in the days that followed, true mastery flows not from effort, but from remembrance of our fundamental unity with all things. Their valley transformed from a place of ordinary life to a temple of living wonder, as they learned to participate in reality's dance rather than merely inhabit it. And in sacred moments, visitors would witness impossible scenes in their marketplace, light taking solid form, thought manifesting instantly, wonder that spread like dawn through the valley. As Robert demonstrated, that when we vibrate with pure existence, even the illusion of separation must yield to the greater truth of unity. If you enjoyed this audiobook, I created a free ebook version for you. You can download it using the link in the pinned comment. Conclusion. And the Temple of Living Frequencies, where crystalline pillars pulsed with visible resonance and ancient wisdom hung like mist in the air. Keeper Jessica Henderson maintained the sacred vibrations passed down through countless generations. Though many sought the temple's mysteries, few recognized that its greatest secret lay not in its singing crystals or geometric patterns, but in the space between them. During the time of final frost, when reality's frequencies grew most perceptible, young seeker Patrick Sullivan arrived seeking ancient knowledge. Instead of answering his questions directly, Jessica led him to 3 identical crystal chambers within the temple's heart. "Listen," she whispered as they entered the first chamber. Here, visitors strained to hear mystical sounds, finding only silence. In the second, seekers attempted to manipulate energy through force of will, achieving nothing. But in the third chamber, where Jessica stood in perfect stillness, the crystals began singing spontaneously, their harmonies painting visible patterns of light through the air. "Watch closely," she instructed, taking 3 identical crystal rods. As a normal person, they remained inert in her hands, As a practice practitioner, they hummed softly. But when she aligned completely with universal frequency, they transformed into pure light, their resonance revealing the invisible architecture of reality itself. All existence, she revealed, is nothing but frequency expressing itself through infinite forms. The temple's true teaching is not in its methods, but in the recognition that you are the instrument through which reality plays its grandest songs. We Jiriramberfrower Sunda. She demonstrated by shifting her own vibrational state. First, material density, the normal human condition. Next, frequency awareness, where energy became visible. Finally, pure resonance, where her form became translucent with light, indistinguishable from the temple's crystalline glow. Practice the final resonance and to align with universal frequency. 1. Release all separation from existence. 2. Feel yourself as pure vibration. 3. Allow reality to tune you like an instrument. 4th, let universal harmonies play through you. 5. Trust the symphony of being. 6. Express the music of existence itself. For as Patrick discovered in the days that followed, mastery comes not from accumulating techniques, but from remembering our nature as living frequencies of the cosmic song. The temple transformed from a place of seeking to a celebration of being as he learned to vibrate in harmony with existence itself. And in sacred moments, visitors would witness impossible scenes in the crystal chambers, reality rippling like water, wisdom appearing as visible music, transformation that spread like dawn through the temple. As Jessica demonstrated that when we vibrate with pure existence, even the illusion of individuality must yield to the greater truth of universal symphony. If you enjoyed this exclusive audiobook, I handpicked this next book which will change your life.